Welcome back to the Scattered Sheep Podcast. I am your host, Anthony Wade. It is September 24th. And after a difficult week and a half after following the Charlie Kirk assassination and the ensuing idolatry from the NAR Apostate Church, dominionist activities that are going on, and the elevation of and deification of man over Christ, it's good to get back to some good old-fashioned regular discernment, and one of my favorite video partners, although I think Katie Souza is my favorite at this point, but Troy Black certainly ranks up there. And he's been busy because, in case you don't know, Troy has the throne room of God on speed dial, apparently, and God is constantly giving him prophetic downloads, which are never fulfilled. Troy's grift is he creates this prophecy archive where he claims victory, but he sets himself up to be able to claim the victory by purporting that God tells him these ridiculous prophecies that are nothing more than sentence fragments and various vagaries about public events that are going on or things that are bound to happen anyway. I mean, the example I always give is the barge prophecy, where he claimed that God showed him a shipping vessel was going to run into a harbor and the top would get bent and whatnot. Literally there was 20 different things that he claimed was in that prophecy. None of them came true, but he still went out and claimed victory because a ship had an explosion in Baltimore Harbor 4 hours after that prophecy. So, and this isn't in his archive yet, but I'm assuming he's going to put it there because this is another Troy Black victory video where he's claiming that he did a weird prophecy a few weeks back about the former Queen of England, who's long since passed. Something along the lines of her being raised from the dead. Now, he was very clear that he did not think that meant a literal raising from the dead, so that's good at least. But it was so vague. I wasn't sure what reach he was going to make to try to claim this one was fulfilled. But apparently, the prophecy had something to do with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, even though that's nowhere in the prophecy whatsoever. So we're going to have to do a little work. We're going to have to do a little jumping around. So we're going to start with today's video. Then we're going to go back and look at the prophecy from a few weeks back. That prophecy part is only 2.5 minutes long because that's generally the shtick that Troy pulls. He puts out 30-minute videos. The actual prophecy is only 2 to 3 minutes. And the rest of it is a halfway decent gospel presentation and a mashup of scriptures that he sometimes understands and sometimes clearly doesn't. But the grift, is the video is selling the prophecy. And that's what he uses to drive people to his ministry. He's got over 500,000 followers. And I've said all along that, if he would just do videos on his gospel presentation, I'd probably never cover Troy Black from a discernment perspective. But he doesn't, because that's not the grift. The grift is that he's pretending to hear from God. So I expect to get the usual bashers in my channel because he does have very ardent supporters who don't like when somebody pokes their prophet. So without further ado, we're going to start, like I said, with his claiming a victory 2 days ago.
Hey, y'all, this is Troy Black. So God gave me a word about Queen Elizabeth II, who passed away about 3 years ago now, and it actually has to do with Charlie Kirk. And if you've never seen prophecy fulfilled, you're going to see it in this video. So I'm going to be showing you how.
No, you're not.
How this word that God gave me was actually very briefly and quickly fulfilled right after the fact. So this was a word I shared on September 7th of 2025 this year, and I believe it was fulfilled literally less than a week afterwards. So I'm going to pray real fast and jump in. Holy Spirit, I just ask that you speak to every person's heart that's listening today. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your help. In Jesus' name. Okay. So this is, let me show you all the video. Well, actually, first I'm going to show you a video that was fulfilled, or a prophecy that was fulfilled last year. So check this out. This was a word I shared last year. This is the follow-up video to it, but the word, I'll show you the original videos up here. God showed me what's happening to Queen Elizabeth II, or sorry, not last year, 3 years ago, right, when she passed away. I shared that video 10 days before she passed away. And in that video, this is the follow-up. This was predicted. God predicted Queen Elizabeth's death 10 days ago. In that original video, I shared a word about Queen Elizabeth where the Lord said she's ready to be there, ready to leave home. She's the next to go. That was 10 days before she passed away.
Yeah, so for those of you who may not be up on British politics or the royals, Troy Black did prophesy 10 days before Queen Elizabeth's death. Queen Elizabeth was 96 years old at the time. 96. And she had been known publicly to be in very poor health. She had mobility issues. She had bone cancer. There was quite a lot going on. So to prophesy that a 96-year-old who no longer could leave her residence, she stopped public appearances that year, for the 10 months prior to this prophecy. So to prophesy that a 96-year-old woman was ready to go home is not prophecy. That's like saying, the Lord's telling me the sun's going to come up tomorrow. But this is what he does. And I think I had previously debunked this original 3-year-old prophecy from Queen Elizabeth dying, and basically saying, it's such an obvious grift. It's so disappointing that hundreds of thousands of people see that and for some reason think, why would God give this guy a message for the church that a 96-year-old woman was going to pass away? Why? It makes. Is there any biblical comparison? But that's the old prophecy. Now he's getting a lot of mileage out of Queen Elizabeth. Let me tell you.
And I believe if you're looking for prophecy fulfilled, here's one example right here.
No, it's not.
But we're also going to be looking at this video. I shared this one 2 weeks ago. The title of this video is God Showed Me Queen Elizabeth Coming Back. Yeah, this is weird. So obviously, I was not talking about her raising from the dead or something like that. And I explained that in the video, but the title obviously is weird, and that's why I said it like that. So
what we're going to do is we're going to go to that video. Like I said, the prophecy, got my handy Troy Black notebook. The actual prophecy in this one is about 2 minutes long.
Very strange word. I saw a vision from the Lord of like old time, like maybe medieval England, and there were like peasants drawing water out of a well in the middle of the town square.
Mind you, there is no correlation in his claim of prophecy fulfillment that has anything to do with medieval England.
And there was like dirty ground, old shops, and I could tell this is like representing a national heritage or representing the history of the UK. And then I saw a queen, very strange, but I saw this like a bust of a queen, and it was like made of stone, like white stone or marble. And it was in the middle of a large flag. So I saw this large flag, and she was right in the middle, but she was sideways, like laying sideways. It was almost as if I was like looking up at a flag on the ceiling, and there was, for some reason, this bust laying sideways in the middle or on the floor. I don't think it was necessarily the UK flag that I was seeing, although it might have represented it in a way. But it was like the colors were kind of inverted. It was like a red flag and had like.
I'm going to give him grace and assume that this was not added afterwards, like the overlay here, because he claims that people in his chat were informing him that what he was describing was a St. George's cross, which was the cross that was used. It came out of the Crusades.
A white cross that got bigger on the edges. So it was a little different. It might have represented the UK flag, but it might have represented something else as well. Or it might have just represented part of the UK flag. I know it's made up from a couple different flags put together, I think. This is what I was seeing, and then I heard the Lord say this very strange thing. He said, Queen Elizabeth II coming back for one more round.
Really?
A raising from the dead kind of ceremony.
A raising from the dead kind of ceremony. So now he puts in quotes raising from the dead because he clearly is saying, he's not saying she's going to be raised from the dead. Thank God. But the key part here is kind of ceremony, which does not appear anywhere in the claim of fulfillment.
Raising from the dead kind of ceremony. And I wrote it down because the Lord was saying it, but I did not understand what it meant.
Then what do we need you for, Troy? You claim to be a prophet, that the God that created the entire universe speaks directly to you. But yet for some reason, he only speaks to you in sentence fragments. He speaks to you in vagaries. He leaves things for you to try to figure out and match up to like internet stories. And that just doesn't make any sense, Troy.
But the Lord actually gave me an impression today that gives a little bit more clues as to what is going on here. And
this prophecy claim, I think, was from a couple of weeks ago that God spoke to him, but God apparently forgot to tell him something. So 2 weeks later, he gave him impressions to add to the prophecy. Does anybody have any biblical example of anything so ridiculous?
Got a few more details as to what this may mean. So I don't believe that Queen Elizabeth is going to raise from the dead physically. I don't believe that's going to happen, but I believe this is heading in a different direction. But this is also what the Lord wanted me to.
And that's the prophecy. And then he goes into his folksy shtick and, a mashup of Bible verses. Now we're going to go back to the victory claim from 2 days ago. But you understood the prophecy was a vision of old-time England, medieval England, with peasants drawing water from a well in the middle of a town square. None of that came to pass. It was representing a history of the UK or a heritage, and he's going to try to latch onto that. Then I saw a bust of a queen, like a white stone or marble. It was in the middle of the large flag, and it was sideways, which the bust, I'm going to assume that he's going to try to parry it off to being that's how God was representing Queen Elizabeth. The flag was an inverted St. George's flag. The Lord said, very strange thing, Queen Elizabeth coming back for one more round, a raising from the dead, kind of ceremony. I don't understand what it meant, which is odd because you're the prophet, right? But the Lord gave me an impression today, a few more details about what this might mean. And then he goes on to say, I don't think it's a raising from the dead. So I don't even know what the details are that he claims he got an impression on. So this is him. He's going to summarize this now, and then he's going to make an absurd leap. Because he has to do that in all of these, because obviously God is not really talking to him.
Have you ever seen a flower that grows without watering? Meet the desert rose, a plant that can thrive for a...
Let me switch over to, if I can possibly switch real fast, to show you. Here we go. There's the thumbnail right there. So if you want to go watch this video, the thumbnail look like that, still looks like that, and it's called. This is the title right here on the screen. So I'm gonna read what I shared in this video from the Lord, and I'm gonna show you how it actually took place the week later. And then I got a word for the UK and for you as well that I'm gonna share directly after that. And I got that literally minutes before jumping onto the stream. So this was shared September 7th. Remember, this is 3 days before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Okay. In this video, I saw a vision of peasants drawing water out of a well in the middle of a town square. It was a dirt ground. It was old shops. It looked like an ancient time, right? Medieval time or something. Then I saw Queen Elizabeth in the middle of a red plus flag, like a plus sign, that was smaller where it crossed in the middle and bigger on the...
Interesting that somebody who's claiming to be a Christian prophet thinks the cross is a plus sign.
Edges, okay? And I said that in the video. And I didn't know what flag it was, but people in the comments let me know after the fact that it was the crusade, the flag of the Crusades, which once I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I said it was a red checkered flag, smaller in the middle and bigger on the edges. Okay, so it's obviously that flag. And then I saw a lady made of stone, a white stone, and just a bust of her in the middle of the flag. right? But it was sideways, and she looked like she was laying down, but it was obviously Queen Elizabeth II. And I heard the Lord say about her, he said, Queen Elizabeth II coming back for one more round, a quote unquote raising from the dead kind of ceremony. And obviously not talking about her raising from the dead literally, because then he said, gave me this impression that this would have to do with the national sentiment of the UK and the surrounding nations as well. Okay, national sentiment of the UK, the surrounding nations, a people who are
national sentiment, meaning the country, national sentiment, and the surrounding countries as well.
Fed up with the status quo and the ever-changing political landscape that seeks to overwhelm their national heritage. That's what I heard the Lord say that I shared in that video. Okay. Then I heard they are going to use her to appeal to the masses to get the job done.
So they're going to use her to appeal to the masses to get the job done.
They're going to use her to appeal to the masses to get the job done. So what happened, and I shared all that in this video here, what happened since then? Well, we know that Charlie Kirk was assassinated on September 10th. That was 3 days after I shared that video. What happened 3 days after that, on September 13th? There was a free speech festival that drew mostly people from the right, mostly conservatives in the UK, who feel like their voices have been silenced, especially when it comes to their national heritage. I mean, this crowd literally had to do with defending the national heritage of the UK, right? You
see where he's going with this. And I hope that you're discerning enough to realize the utter stupidity, the disdain and contempt he has for his followers, that they would think that the prophecy he just read off, that I also showed the video of, has anything to do with this. But it's going to get worse.
Read it and look at everything that they're talking about. And that was the word that I had gotten, right? That it was like people that are fed up with the status quo and ever-changing political landscape that seeks to overwhelm their national heritage. But also, the turnout, this was an event that was already scheduled for the September 13th, but the turnout was massive. And the reason, we fight for Charlie Kirk. The reason was because the conservative base in the UK has been spurred on by the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And you see that the official report by some people was 110,000 people. My bad. But the actual numbers, they say, is a lot closer to 1 million people that turned out.
No, Troy. They don't say that. You say that. Maybe you went to some right-wing talking point site because you're also an NAR Dominionist, albeit a light version. The official report of the attendance was around 110,000, which was more than they had anticipated, but is a drop in the bucket compared to the actual people who live in England, or even who live in London for that matter. But either way, none of this was in the original prophecy. You use the word heritage, or people like, I guess, concerned politically. I mean, you're making a prophecy that there's going to be like political turmoil in a country? The heck you say. Either way, it's not a massive crowd.
To this event. 1 million people.
It's not 1 million people, that's, Troy. You're lying.
Unheard of.
Yeah, it's unheard of because it's not true.
This was posted. So how does this connect between Charlie Kirk and Queen Elizabeth, right?
It doesn't.
This was posted. Now, remember what the Lord said. They're going to use her to appeal to the masses to get the job done. And then it was going to have to do with this base that feels like the national heritage is drifting away. This was posted on the 19th of September. Newsmax says, Queen Elizabeth quietly backed Charlie Kirk's Turning Point UK.
So, I hate to point out the obvious here, but Newsmax is not a real news site. It's a right-wing propaganda network. So, of course, they're going to run stories such as this. Fact check. Reports have spread online claiming Queen Elizabeth II supported Charlie Kirk and his group, Turning Point UK. The late monarch is said to have praised Kirk's Christian values and his drive to engage young people. The claims link her faith as head of the Church of England with Kirk's faith-led activism. But what do the verified records and trusted sources actually say? Mainstream outlets like BBC, Reuters, and The Guardian have not reported any evidence that Queen Elizabeth II formally backed Charlie Kirk or Turning Point UK. The monarchy traditionally avoids public support for political figures or movements. That long-standing rule makes such claims highly unlikely. But Troy finds something that he thinks he can use from a very dubious news source, and he what? I hope you notice the silly sleight of hand, right? So the original prophecy was that she was going to be raised from the dead, or he's saying that she'll be used. The impression he got, she'll be used to appeal to the masses. First of all, the story's not true. But even if the story was true, the fact that she would have backed Charlie Kirk's Turning Point UK, which nobody knew about because there was no public reporting on it, how is that appealing to the masses? The actual percentage of the Conservative Party in England, 2024 general election vote share, the Conservative Party's vote share in England during July 2024 was 24%. This number was a historic low for the party. Well, at least it was till 2025. Recent polling. Conservative Party support in England has continued to shift since the election. For example, a YouGov poll from September 2025, which is this month, showed Conservatives polling around 17%. So what you're saying, Troy, don't line up. They're not the masses yearning for a return to medieval England. And you're quoting a non-news source, a fake news source, that is lying about whether or not she supported Charlie Kirk. And even if she did, nobody knew it. So nobody used her to appeal to the masses. The entire prophecy did not come true, but he's claiming victory.
So not the USA, but the UK. Now, the Turning Point UK, I don't think survived. I don't think it lasted.
It did not.
But in this article, it says, it talks about how this is according to firsthand accounts from those close to Charlie Kirk who were in the UK and who were working with getting this set up and actually in the room with the Queen. The Queen was privately briefed, it says, on Charlie Kirk's activities at Windsor Castle, and she expressed warm encouragement, according to London's Telegraph. She loved the idea that Charlie was bringing young people back to the church, is what it says. And then it also says right here, as head of the Church of England, she appreciated Charlie's sincere love of Jesus Christ and his mission to remind young people of Christian values. She was interested, encouraging, and validating of what Charlie was doing. So this is the conservative movement spurred on by the assassination of Charlie Kirk recently, showing out a massive...
No, it's not. And on top of that, I don't know if you caught it, but the source that Newsmax cites was the Telegraph, which is England's version of Newsmax. It's a right-wing lunatic site that promotes right-wing propaganda. All the mainstream media sources in England, none of them report this because it's not true.
Record-breaking numbers, up to 1 million people.
No, it was 100,000 people.
In London for this free speech rally, and talking about Charlie Kirk at the rally, at the event. And now it comes out that Queen Elizabeth had quietly backed Charlie Kirk's Turning Point UK.
Which was not true.
I'm a little nervous because I have no clue what's about to happen, but this could either be a total disaster or the world's...
That's amazing. Another article that just came out on the 14th. This came out the day after that event. Turning Point failed in the UK. Charlie Kirk didn't. Now, this is from a liberal magazine, Politico. Turning Point failed in the UK.
Politico's not a liberal magazine. It's just not right-wing.
Okay. Charlie Kirk didn't. And it talks about the effects of Charlie Kirk and his social media reach and how it has, even though the official organization didn't last in the UK, according to what I've read here, his influence is just growing and growing and growing there, and it's helping to spur on the conservative base. Now,
and what does that have to do with the prophecy, Troy? You didn't mention Charlie Kirk in the prophecy. You didn't mention Turning Point UK in the prophecy. You didn't mention any of it. You just said the word heritage. And that's what you're latching onto, and you're making an insane link, which would be bad enough if all of the backed up data that you're using, the alleged facts, are false.
Here at the end of the day, are we looking for more conservatives in the world as our number one goal? No, we're looking for the gospel of Jesus Christ to be shared to the nations, like UK, United States, every country. Every country around the world. That's the heart, and that should be the heart of a believer in the church. That should be our mission. Now, you're going to hear in a word in a second. Is it okay to stand up for truth? To stand up for things like your national heritage, or if your rights are being trampled on, or what? Is it okay to stand up for those things? Yes, it is okay.
I'm sorry. Whose rights are being trampled on, Troy? Are you making a political judgment now that somehow the Conservative Party is being trampled on in England? The 17% of the people in England who affiliate with the Conservative Party? Because that's a pretty bold and stupid statement.
To stand up for those things. But we must remember, as believers, we stand representing a heavenly kingdom first. And so when we stand for an earthly belief, or an earthly position or stance, we must remember we do not stand first and foremost here, but we stand representing Jesus.
Yeah, except this entire video is propping up a political point of view, Troy, not a spiritual point of view. You're not lifting Jesus up. You're lifting Charlie Kirk up. You're claiming God gave you a word about the queen who died 3 years ago on your first faked prophecy, and that she was going to be raised from the dead, but not necessarily physically raised from the dead, but that there was going to have something to do with heritage. And you're making an insane connection based upon two dubious sources that you obviously didn't bother to fact check. What's the meme that goes around? It's like, did you fact check this? I don't have to, because it already agrees with my pre-bias.
And when we compromise on our beliefs in Him, we've gone too far.
Then you've gone too far.
When we take a stance, we must remember it has to be within the bounds and the context of, I'm a representative of Jesus Christ, and I'm going to do this differently than the world does. I'm going to do it differently. And we saw that. We saw this reflected in the speech during Charlie Kirk's memorial service, where Donald Trump got up and spoke, and one of the things he said that was very striking was he said, Charlie loved his enemies. The difference between me and Charlie is he loved his enemies. He's like, I hate my enemies, right? I don't want to see them win. And
that's not funny.
What was the difference there? The difference is the spirit versus the flesh. See, it is impossible.
Oh, I see. So you're lifting Jesus up by claiming that Charlie represents the spirit. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the racist quotes from Mr. Kirk, the mocking of when Paul Pelosi's skull was crushed in with a hammer. I'm not going to get into that. The bottom line here is Troy is making another claim of victory, a Troy Black special, which is he puts out an absolutely ridiculous word, just absolutely absurd. Makes vague allusions to like people, the queen being raised from the dead, something about her bust, the bust of her face, I should say. The Lord then gave me an impression, a few more details, and one of those details is that she was going to be used to appeal to the masses. It's not the masses, right? It's 17%, 100,000 people, not a million people. So all of the factual stuff that he tries to provide is not correct. It's not factual at all. He didn't bother to check it. But even if it was, none of it was in the original prophecy. And the overarching point, as always with Troy Black reviews, is there's no biblical, scriptural, logical reason why God would have talked to a prophet like this. None. Yet 550,000 plus followers. So that's a lot of people being led down the broad path that leads to destruction. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments in the comment section and try to get back to everybody. Give a thumbs up, share the video, all the fun social media stuff. And I don't know. Test every Queen Elizabeth prophecy and hold fast.